Let's talk now, though, about the BBC, which is more often than not a right-cracking watch. Zoe Ball is now the highest-paid member of the little BBC family. This during the time when they can't afford, apparently, not to charge old-age pensioners hundreds of pounds to pay for a licence fee. She's basically, as my good friend and colleague Kevin O'Sullivan pointed out, got £1 for every listener that she's lost over the past 12 months. So congratulations to Zoe Ball. £1 million pay rise for failure. Let's talk to Martin Daubney, a man that knows a thing or two about journalism, a thing or two about business as well. He's, of course, got a new project going on called Unlocked. We'll ask him about that as well. Former Brexit Party MEP. Martin, very good morning to you.
Top of the morning, Michael. It's great to be back in the home of common sense.
Listen, fantastic to have you here. Now, listen, when you were a magazine editor, can you imagine getting a pay rise for losing readers?
No. Nor can anybody else in Christendom.
No.
Nor can anybody else outside of Planet BBC. And isn't it wonderful, Mike, to see the full extent of their vanity? They thought yesterday was going to be a story about the gender pay gap. Hey, Good news, lads. Zoe Ball now earns more than Gary Lineker. We've fought the good fight, as you were. And then look, she's lost 1 million listeners, gained £1 million, as Kevin says. Quite right. And then Lineker has taken a pay cut and was also at the same time ordered to control his Twitter feed. And what was the first thing he did, Mike? He went straight on Twitter and he said, "Oh dear, thoughts are with the haters."
Yes.
This difficult time. I replied to that saying, "Oh dear, here we go. Lineker is a turkey voting for Christmas with every smug tweet." He replied, "So pleased it annoys you."
Yeah.
Thank you for not.
I mean, it's incredible, isn't it? I mean, these guys don't seem to get the fact that they're literally being paid by us, and then they're insulting us with their smugness.
Yeah, and I think that's the point. We have to remember that it's not an optional or a voluntary thing. It's a compulsory payment, and people are fined. People go to prison. A disproportionate amount of those are impoverished women, and yet here we have a multimillionaire being defended by the Twitter artist because he has the woke screen.
Yeah,
he's a Remainer, central, and he wants to adopt a refugee, so he's seemingly immune to criticism. But look, before this conversation goes on any further, Mike, I've got something I'd like to say. Here we go.
Land of hope and glory, mother of the free.
Brilliant.
You,
listen,
Michael.
Congratulations, guys. Thank you. Have you adopted a couple of those who are on the outskirts of society now? You've brought them into. You've done a Gary Lineker. You got Laurence Fox, haven't you?
Yeah, we got Laurence Fox and Calvin Robinson, who of course was subjected to all sorts of aggro yesterday. I think the BBC is a whole conversation, but it's one head of the same beast.
Yes.
And that is political correctness getting out of control, a contempt for ordinary working folk, and a sense of national shame. BBC comedy is now about as funny as Ebola. We are hearing things about white privilege, critical race theory. This is meant to be comedy. We're having it rammed down our throats, Martin.
Well, I saw the other tweet that you put out, Martin, which was about this incredible kind of racist monologue that was done by some supposedly black comedian about killing Whitey. What was that all about?
Well, and this is the new Frankie Boyle comedy show. Do you remember when Frankie Boyle used to be funny?
Frankie Boyle blocked me at one point because apparently he can't take it. He can only give it out.
Yeah, that's because you speak too much common sense, Mike. And that's the problem. They don't want to hear critical voices. They want to live in an echo chamber. The pay structure is a part of that. The comedy is a part of that. Calvin Robinson, who was, you saw in shot there, was on TV yesterday talking about critical race theory and how Black Lives Matter is damaging race relations in Britain. For that, he was trolled all day. The BBC is part of this problem. You know, we have an absolute refusal to take the breadth of public opinion. If you stand outside of that, you are put into a pigeonhole as being racist, xenophobic, Little England, whatever. And yet they carry on. It gets worse today, Mike. News is out that not only the front of camera staff are paid so much, but 200 executives are paid more than the Prime Minister.
Blimey.
In what country is a state broadcaster paying its employees so much money? The system is broken. It's time for a complete review. I welcome yesterday's news because it's more information that it's time to defund the BBC and end this racket. They are the propaganda wing of the country. They don't represent the people. They hold ordinary common sense Brits in absolute contempt. If you voted Brexit, If you don't agree with the woke mantra, you are considered an unworthy human being.
Yeah.
And then they pay themselves this so much money. Look, Michael, the fight back is beginning. People are coming over to broadcasting platforms like yours in their droves, and long may it continue, my friend.
Well, listen, we'll continue. In a minute, I'm going to ask you about your new platform as well. But what about this diversity business with the BBC? Because they seem to have somehow misread the rules on diversity. They seem to think that they become more diverse by giving loads more middle-class white people loads more money on the grounds that they're women.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying for years now that the BBC's idea of diversity is people who look different but think the same. In fact, I said that on the Defund the BBC podcast with Calvin Robinson last week. We have a real problem. We have a one-sided conversation about diversity, and most people are just being left behind by this. Diversity is people who think the same but look differently.
Absolutely right. So tell us a bit about Unlocked, because I think did I not see you interviewing Laurence Fox and maybe Calvin as well on that new platform? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so Unlocked is the new platform that intends to give a voice to these uncomfortable arguments. We are apolitical, that we are free thinkers. We're against the oppressive thought patterns of control, such as woke thinking. We are not left, we are not right. And I'm a former Brexit Party MEP, and I think the great success we had there was being diverse in the true sense of diversity, politically diverse, diverse of opinion, ethnically diverse, although we don't want to be pigeonholing. But the whole point is, let's have free and open conversations about things that the mainstream media are terrified of. Why can't we talk about Rotherham, about grooming gangs, about how the country has been downtrodden and shut up? Why can't we have all these difficult debates about immigration without being called xenophobic Little Englanders? The vast majority of people want to have these conversations, and yet we find that our mainstream media platforms are not only stopping it, but if you dare to have the temerity to bring it up, as we saw with Calvin Robinson yesterday, you are annihilated for having a majority viewpoint. It's not an extremist opinion to be against immigration. It's not an extremist viewpoint to be against grooming gangs. It's not an extremist opinion to say, why can't we look at why the lockdowns are occurring in places like Leicester and Blackburn and Oldham, but we are sweeping the truth under the carpet in the name of not offending anybody, and it's damaging, and that is not a free country. We need new media platforms to take on the mainstream media. That's what Unlocked is going to be.
And there's a great hunger for that, Martin, so I wish you every success with it, because let's finish with this one point from today's news. We were all slightly encouraged yesterday because we thought that Lewis Hamilton was getting himself into trouble for wearing that T-shirt that he wore because it was a political statement. It now turns out that the Formula One organising body has actually questioned its own rules and said, actually, maybe we're a bit too stringent by saying that people shouldn't make political statements. So now, presumably it's going to be a free-for-all. You know, you're going to have people with T-shirts of Boris Johnson's face on them, Angela Merkel's face. I mean, who knows what they're going to do?
Isn't it funny how Black Lives Matter, which from the very outset has transparently been a political organisation that wants to abolish the police and abolish capitalism, is now being backed by a multimillionaire with a carbon footprint the size of a country, who's sponsored by Mercedes, Rolex. You know what these guys are doing? They want to feed the crocodile so they're the last to be eaten. That's what it is. They're terrified. They don't have any voice. If they speak out against it, they are pigeonholed as racist. People are stopping watching the F1, even the Premier League, when they took the knee to Black Lives Matter. They're going in without thinking it through. FIFA are banning poppies on shirts, but they're allowing Black Lives Matter. It's just another side of the same coin, Mike.
It is.
If you don't subscribe to the mainstream, then you are castigated. But the vast majority of people do not agree with this stuff.
They really don't. Martin, listen, great to talk to you, and thanks for the impromptu Land of Hope and Glory. It cheered everybody up this morning. Calvin Robinson and Laurence Fox there with him. I hope you don't have to look after them all day, because they can get a bit tricky in the afternoon, I can tell you that. Martin Daubney, now from an organisation called Unlocked, former Brexit Party MEP, of course. Lots of common sense spoken this morning, and it's only 11:15.